today I'm going to be building a $209 per day DeFi portfolio with $100,000, and I'm going to be walking you through the exact steps that I'd take, so let's get right into this. So with that being said, I'm going to be using the Metrics Finance software in this video, and I'm going to be looking strictly across UniSwap at these 5 networks right here: Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, and Base. The reason why I chose these networks is that's where we're typically seeing the highest returns in liquidity pools right now. And also, those networks typically have assets that I'm willing to hodl in my portfolio. Because at the end of the day, this isn't going to be a portfolio composed of just meme cryptocurrencies and anything along those lines. We're going to be having it targeted towards utility assets. So the first step would of course be to identify some of these assets. So I'm going to go over to CoinGecko and start to identify some assets that I'd want to include in our portfolio. So obviously we got Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. We could even dive into Link or Uni. So let's start with those. Let's go over to Metrics Finance. And guys, I put together a free guide that teaches you exactly what liquidity mining is, and I'm going to leave that link right down in the description below. All you have to do is type in your email and you can get access to it, and it tells you a bit more about myself and also how you can get started in liquidity mining. So I'm just going to hit this pool filter right here. I'm going to type in Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana. I did also skip over Toncoin. We could add that one in as well. So let's go ahead and add that. So I'm going to go Link, Uni, Matic. There we go. So I'm just entering assets that I personally wouldn't really mind taking on exposure to in a liquidity pool. These could be assets that you're already holding on to for the long term. There's also FET, which is the newer Artificial Superintelligence Alliance token, and I'm just going to type in some more assets here. So now that we've done that, it says there's 858 total pools that we can look at. Now, one little issue is that it says we are looking at pools that include Ethereum, and well, practically any pool has Ethereum in it. So when we go ahead and take Ethereum off, it goes down to 122 pools. So for now, I'm just going to scratch Ethereum off the list so our selection of pools is much more narrowed. Later on, you can always look at stuff like Ethereum to USDC if you want to include it in your portfolio. So now we can start to add more filters. So for fees APR, I'm going to type in pools that only have higher than 10%. And my aim would be to get around 150% on the entire portfolio, so I'm not trying to get into pools that have very low APR. And with that being said, yes, we're keeping it only at about 10%, but once we start to narrow down the ranges, that 10% can easily go to 20% or 30%. Because by using automations with tools like Aperture Finance, we're able to do very tight ranges without having to worry about crazy divergence loss. So now we're at 91 pools. Sweet, it's getting more narrow. So next thing I'm going to do is put the TVL at a minimum of $500,000. I like to do this to try to sort out some meme coins and some pools that I just personally wouldn't want to get into. And then when it comes to the 24-hour TVL ratio, I'm going to put stuff that is higher than 8%, let's just say. Perfect. Now we have 39 pools here. So this is going to help me identify active liquidity pools and pools that have a lot of volume compared to their TVL, and as well have a decent TVL above $500,000, as well have a decent fees APR. Remember, I'm consistently coming out with content to try to help you get the highest return possible on your DeFi investments, so make sure to subscribe to stay tuned for my newest videos and hit the bell to turn on post notifications. So first up, of course, we see USDC to wrapped Bitcoin doing about 33%. Now that doesn't fit too perfect into our portfolio, but then we see USDC to wrapped Bitcoin doing 173% right here. So we'd obviously want to bookmark that one, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the star so it goes into our favorite pools. And obviously later on we can dive in to see what's going to have the highest possible return, but for now let's just look at this. I see Ondo to Ethereum, so I'm going to go ahead and bookmark that one. Also Ethereum to FET, 43%. I'm going to go ahead and bookmark that one as well. And Sol to ETH at about 30%. Let's go ahead and bookmark that one too. And remember, these all aren't showing crazy returns, but once we narrow down the range, we can get it higher. Ooh, this one down here, USDC.E to WMatic doing almost 70%. I'm going to go ahead and favorite that one here. I see Ethereum to ETH token doing about 100%, so I'm going to favorite that one. Here we have ETH to TON doing roughly 60%. I'm going to go ahead and favorite that one. We have Link to USDC.E over on the Polygon network doing about 173%. So I'm going to favorite that one. Another Matic to USDT doing almost 100%, so I'm going to favorite that one. So we can keep going down this list and see what we want to include in the portfolio. Seems like we got a good starting point, about 9 different pools at the moment. And now it's time to narrow these down, because remember, we want to look at the ones that are truly getting the highest returns. So now that we've went through this list, we're going to head over to the simulate page right here on Metrics Finance. So now we're going to go ahead and click pair right here and open that up. So now once we're over on pair, we're going to select the same parameters that we selected over on the discover page. So we're going to be on Uniswap v3 and select Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, and Base. Now when it comes to pools like wrap Bitcoin to USDT that are on every single one of these networks, that's exactly where pair comes into play, because we want to make sure we're getting into the best possible liquidity pool, not just the highest TVL, because of course we want to get the highest return here. Next thing I want to do is check this little similar assets button. It's also going to show me wrapped Bitcoin to USDC, wrapped Bitcoin to DAI. So basically it's going to show us any other derivatives of Bitcoin or USD basically. So now we can truly identify which opportunities are going to be the best return. Now it seems like this one on the Ethereum network is the best one we're going to get, so I'm going to leave this favorited for now and see what else there is. So we have Matic to USDC.E, so let's go ahead and check that one out. Okay, so that seems to be the best for most consistent return on Matic. Reason being is that they're mainly on Ethereum network and not really deployed on other networks. And typically when they are lower market cap assets, the majority of the liquidity is going to be allocated to one fee tier, and that seems to be the case for all of these. But diving back in, I still need to narrow this down because 9 pools is going to be a lot to dive into. So what I'm going to do is check out this Sol to Ethereum pool. I'm going to go ahead and open it in the simulate feature. So there's not much we can do with Sol over on Uniswap except for this wormhole version, which basically means that it's wrapped. It looks like there could be someone taking up a lot of the fees, so I'm just going to knock this one off because it's about 30% and I am not too interested in this one, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Anyways, I do want to include wrapped Bitcoin to USDC in the portfolio, so let's open this up. So let's go ahead and start to find that range, and the reason why I want to include wrapped Bitcoin to USDT in this video is because it seems like it's going to be the backbone. It has a lot of liquidity and Bitcoin is obviously very, very blue chip, and this is going to be our blue chip position that hopefully prints a good return, not a super high return, but allows us to have stability and consistency in our portfolio to hopefully mitigate market downturns. Remember, I'm not a licensed financial advisor. I'm not saying what you should or shouldn't do with your money. I'm just saying what here at Build Your Wealth we would do. So I'm going to put 72,000 as my top price, and then I'm going to put roughly 48,000 as my min price. So that will allocate roughly 50-50. It's like 51 USDC to 49 wrapped Bitcoin, perfect. And that's showing roughly 215% APR. But remember, we always have to see how consistent that APR is actually going to be. So my favorite way to do this is by looking at the volume history. Let's go ahead and use the past 5 days. So scroll up and in the calculation range section, change it to 5. So when we do that, it looks like we cut out a huge day of volume because now the yearly APR is 46 or 47%. The Metrics Finance software is so sweet to calculate your estimated yearly APR as well as discover so many liquidity pools. So I'm going to leave a 30-day free trial down in the description. So go ahead and click that link and get access to Metrics Finance for free. Just a disclaimer, here at Build Your Wealth, we are the founders of this software. And as you can see, there's more liquidity over here to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and move the current price over here. So maybe here, 60,255. And that's showing a 13 or 14% APR. Then I'm going to adjust this max price just a bit. Okay, now it says APR is 17%. So next thing I'm going to do is enter my deposit amount. Now I'm going to assume I'm entering about $25,000 into this pool. So I'm going to type that in. As I mentioned, it's going to be the backbone of the portfolio. Let's just save it to the portfolio. So we might not end up deploying into this liquidity pool, but if we do, it's there. Now, once I save that to the portfolio, I'm going to knock it off the favorite list. I'm going to go ahead and choose Matic to USDC. Where is it? Right here. And I'm going to execute the same process. So let's assume a roughly $15,000 deposit amount because Matic is not as blue chip as something like Bitcoin. So it looks like we can get a higher return over here on Matic though. So let's put our max price at about 50 cents. See, like that, and then our min price at something like 35. Okay, here we're looking at 95% a year, so it's a big difference compared to that last pool we were looking at. Now it's going to give us a bit more USDC, roughly 56%, and then 43% Matic, but showcasing this 96% APR is looking sweet. Once again, we need to narrow that down, so let's go ahead and use 5 days as the calculation range, and then let's drag that current price to where there's a bit more liquidity, so right here. Then I'm going to drag that current price over, and now it's showing 77% APR. Still pretty good. Let's go ahead and save it to the portfolio, and you can also check out the volume history if you want to. Now we can go ahead and run that exact strategy on these other pairs, but I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this because it is a lengthy process as you just saw. So for Ondo, I'm going to put my top range at 4,300, and if we are a bit more bullish on Ondo than we are Ethereum, we can do like 4,250, but I'm just going to do 4,500. And then let's bring down the min price to something like 2,800 here, 2,800. And that just gives us some more room for Ondo to perform. See, we have 67% in Ondo. And let's put that deposit amount at $10,000. We're going to drag up the current price to peak of liquidity distribution right here. Or is it here? Let's see. Yeah, let's do it here. And it says it's roughly 43% APR. So this isn't too bad. And let's go ahead and look at the calculation range of 5 days. So even though the APR did drop down a bit to 20%, let's go ahead and save it to the portfolio because this seems pretty solid. As far as FET goes, it seems like it hasn't been performing as well as Ethereum recently. So we're going to put the max price at 3,800 and then put the min price at 2,600. Let's see what that looks like. So that allows us to allocate more towards Ethereum. It says like 71% almost. And we're getting a yearly APR estimated of 66.5%. Then yet again, I'm going to put a $10,000 deposit amount and zone in and do a 5-day calculation range. Okay, now the APR changed to 45.74, but it's looking fine to me. So I'm going to go ahead and save it to my portfolio. For Ethereum to ETH, I'm going to use a range of about 33,000 for the min price. And then let's see, maybe like 52,000 for the max price. Now the yearly APR is saying 119%. And I also set this up here. So we are getting a bit more exposure to ETH. And I know over here, it does look like short term. There have been some runs to Ethereum compared to ETH, but I do think this can do very, very solid as the bull market progresses. Yet again, we're going to use a 5-day calculation range right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and save this to my portfolio. And it is looking like the yearly APR is estimated to almost 200%. So this might be our best one so far for the 5-day calculation range. Now I'm going to go to ETH to TON. Let's go here. And I'm going to set the max price to about, let's see, maybe 514. Min price to make this a bit tighter, 341. It says 100% APR. Let's check out the 5-day calculation range. It says 70%. And then, all right. So we're going to go ahead and save this to portfolio as well. So for now, we have the portfolio built out. We need to change the deposit amount to equal $100,000 total. I will mess with that. But I did notice a trend with the altcoins like Ethereum to ETH, Ethereum to FET, and Ethereum to Ondo. Basically, in the past 30 days, the volume was more consistent than it was in the past 5 days. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust these to a 30-day calculation range. And this is because this is, of course, going to be ups and downs when it comes to volume. And also, you can go ahead and adjust these ranges once more. I might take a look at this in a second and change them up off camera. So now I changed the amount allocated to each amount. So here we have $35,000 allocated. Here we have 13,500. Here 13,500, 13,000, 12,500, and then 12,500 here. So right now we're at $150 per day. That is less than I want. So here's what we can do to get that up. So we can start to dive into these ranges and get tighter ranges. And the reason why we want to do that is so that we can use aperture automations to automatically rebalance our positions, which is going to allow us to, one, stay in range, but also it's going to allow us to collect a higher APR. So for this one right here, ETH to TON coin, I'm going to change the max price to about 488 and the min price to about 365. Now it's 141 APR. Then from Matic to USDC, I'm going to go ahead and do this one as well. Let's see. So I'm going to change the calculation range to 30 days. This one actually is looking all set. I don't really want to mess with this one actually. So I'm going to go to ETH and FET. Let's see here. ETH to FET. This one, all right, can definitely mess with this. Let's see, I'm gonna turn the max price way down to here, and look, 88% now. All right, I'm gonna move the min price up a bit, maybe like here, so 95%. All right, I'm gonna save it and delete the old one. So where is that? WETH to FET. So let's see. So there's two here. Where is the lower one? Here. So I'm gonna delete that one. Perfect. And then WETH to Ondo, I'm gonna simulate here. Let's see if we can change this up. I'm going to change it. So max price, I can move this down more. Min price, I'm going to move it up to about 31.26. Now the yearly APR is 36%. What was it before? It was at about 42%. Okay, cool. So save the portfolio here. Okay, so now our estimated fees are almost $200 per day. That's a big difference. Let me real quick take a look at Matic to USDC. I think this one was all set, but let's go ahead and check. We can do anything. Oh yeah, that's the one that was all set. Okay, cool. Here, ETH to ETH, I'm going to change this one a bit too. Let's change this down and then this down. You might need to readjust the max price, but I'm going to turn this down for the sake of this video. So now we are at 160%. Save the portfolio. Cool. So we're at $209 per day. Sweet. And that's about 76% yearly APR. So it goes to show that you don't need to have any crazy assets in your portfolio because these are all utility assets. And they're not meme coins, but you can still get a super high return. Now, let me add, this is a relatively risky approach. You need to be very active. Now, I'm talking about an hour per day managing these positions. And you also need to make sure that the market is going your way and make sure that your strategy is adapted to the current market circumstances. It's not the riskiest. It doesn't say like we're getting over 150% APR. We're sitting at about 76%, but I personally would maybe aim for like 65% APR. and have broader ranges, and also make sure that there isn't as much room for error. So that's the trade-off. I'd be happy earning less money with the broader ranges that I don't need to monitor as heavy every day. And if it also meant keeping more exposure to the upside of these specific assets. And that's because I think ultimately any 5 or 10x on an asset is going to be higher than any 150% APR that I can get in a short period of time. Now, this isn't going to be a portfolio that I'm going to be deploying into. I just wanted to show you what is possible in the world of DeFi. Make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload. Make sure to check out that free liquidity mining guide in the description below and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss an upload.